Maybe I'll move to the mountains one day if they get decent Wi-Fi up there. Anyway.
Well, you know, I'm looking at you, Elon. If you're going to get that Starlink thing working pretty good, I should be able to get reception just about anywhere, right?
Do it. In fact, Elon Musk will tie into our first good old days tonight, because remember when he had that car in space? I know what movie he got the idea from. And we're going to talk
Absolutely,
about that
he did.
Old days. In fact, let's just get right to it, shall we?
Tell me about the good old days. What are we going to talk about today?
We are going to talk about your one trip ticket to midnight, which is not the deleted scene show, but Heavy Metal.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
Look at that poster. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
That's what every guy wants to be, the muscular dude with the sexy women and killing the ogre.
Absolutely, but you know, got to cover up because I don't want to be running around with my dork hanging.
Yeah, that was John Candy.
John Candy, right?
Yeah. Columbia Pictures takes you beyond the future to a universe you've never seen before, a universe of mystery, a universe of magic, a universe of sexual fantasies, a universe of awesome good, a universe of terrifying evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Lochnar, right?
As I the Lochnar. Okay, how did you first hear of this movie growing up? Were you able to see it in the theater, or was this like this thing in the background that you knew of but could never see for a long time?
I would say to a degree the latter. Yeah, I didn't get to see it in theaters. Actually, I initially didn't have the inclination to do so, and I was only aware of it from comic books, you know, adverts in comic books. And then when it came on cable, I'm like, oh, I gotta check this out, right? And
HBO got it.
Yes.
Oh no! HBO just beat out Showtime.
Well, we had both for some time.
Showtime never got this thing. I would have snuck and watched it as a kid.
And I loved it. Great, you know, just like Chris P is saying, great soundtrack.
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
Which was what held it up from being able to be released for the longest time, was the rights on the music.
There were all kinds of rock bands in this. We'll get to it. We'll get to the album in a minute. But yeah, and I had a feeling the rights of this thing was tied up in music rights, for you know, Hades or whatever. And
I think a big part of, wasn't it Journey too? Was like
Journey was in it, yeah.
And they the rights on their end too was a big deal. So
I know that eventually Sony buys Columbia, and Sony has a huge music catalog. I don't know if they had distribution rights to all the bands on that album, but they must have had a significant number of them to the point where this could get released. I never got to see this until I was 19. This was in 96, I believe, when it got a VHS re-release. A couple years prior, they had this on TNT of all channels late at night, and I was sneaking watching it. You think they're going to have all the good bits in there on TNT? No, they're cutting. This thing was getting cut to ribbons. But I was still watching because I was fascinated by this movie. What is Heavy Metal? Some of you may not even know what we're talking about. It is an animated anthology motion picture.
Yep.
All of the stories center around this green orb known as the Lochnar, which, as he tells us in the audience, he is the sum of all evils. Yeah. So like all the evils all across our universe, other multiverses, dimensions, he is just all of them combined into one object, sinister object. And this astronaut comes down from space in a convertible, because why not?
Yep.
And as he's putting up the atmosphere, he just
look. If you're gonna drive a car from space to Earth, make it a Corvette. Why not? Big Al, I'm glad you did. We were talking about that.
Friends. I wish I could have made it for that one. Yeah, you were on with him for Films with Friends.
Absolutely. So definitely, if you've got your own, you really should have your own copy of Heavy Metal. Queue it up, or whatever stream you use, and you can hear our commentary on Big Al Presents Films with Friends. And Mark Malnikoff is saying greetings from the greetings Talaknan, which means humans, from the depths of the dilithium mines of Rurapente, on the penal asteroid Rurapente. Exactly.
It's weird. In one of the segments in this, you do see a damaged Enterprise flying out through like space wreckage, and you see it look like the USS Enterprise. They snuck it in there.
I'm sure they did that as a little bit of an Easter egg.
Probably a nod, yeah. There's the Lochnar though, and it corners this young girl in her house after basically disintegrating her father right in front of her, and says,
"Yep,
before I kill you, look into me. I'll show you these stories of my evil." And the first one is Harry Canyon. That takes place.
The first one is The Fifth Element. Is basically what that is.
Yeah, it takes place in the near future New York, where Harry Canyon. It's funny. I might have seen this around the time I saw The Fifth Element.
Yeah,
and he plays a cabbie in a future New York City. There's this great scene where some punk, pulls a gun on him in the back and says, "Give me all your money," and then he presses a button in the front of his cab, and a laser beam pops out of the back and disintegrates the.
Well, and you figure that in future New York, you just have to, because you got to just expect that at this point.
Yeah, so he runs into a Dane whose father had unearthed the legendary Lochnar on some alien planet,
right?
And a bunch of aliens and human criminals want it, and so she goes to him for help. I'm not going to spoil anything else about this movie. You do get to see her what she's hiding under there. That's
you get. Let's face it. There's a whole lot of animated nudity. I mean, it is animated, kind. So I mean.
I'm sorry, man. This is like, I want to say this movie was a fantasy for preteen boys. This entire thing, like right when you're on the cusp of puberty, and you get to see this movie. This is an amazing. This has everything you want. It has boobs. It has guns. It has. Actually, I shouldn't use the word boobs. That's a crass term for breasticles.
Breasticles, yes. Breasticles.
Look at that, though. I love this. This whole thing looks like a comic strip brought to life, and it was based on a comic book magazine in France called Heavy Metal.
Yeah.
And National Lampoon brought this magazine over here, and they would translate it the comics. So a lot of these do have kind of a European feel to them. I would consider this a Canadian animated movie, and you get a lot of Canadian actors doing the voices, like John Candy.
John Candy, exactly.
Harold Ramis, I think, is in this too. I could be wrong, but yeah.
Oh yeah, no, Harold Ramis was in it. I think he plays one of the robots or little aliens in one of the last segments. Yeah.
Do you like that Jaws 7?
Yeah, Jaws 7, exactly.
Oh, if they only knew. Okay,
right.
Those are some of the horrible criminals.
That's true. We did back then. We did a lot of jokes about things being sequeled into the teens, right? Not realizing that eventually they would stop doing sequels and they'd start doing remakes over and over and over again.
Charlotte Nightstar the Werewolf, welcome.
Welcome, yes.
This Heavy Metal. Do you know what this is? I've heard some men say they would take their first date to see this movie and they never hear from her again. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a great test to find out, if she's the one. If she doesn't come back after that, okay, she wasn't the one.
I kind of see this as like maybe if a woman's trying to get you into the Twilight series, it's like it's not really made for. I don't know though. Maybe some women like this movie. I don't know. But
I mean, like Netter didn't mind it. She wasn't completely repulsed by it. So, that's a good sign.
Look at that, though. We have
it looks just like John Candy, doesn't it?
It's funny, and he starts out as a shrimpy kid, and then he's doing some experiment with the meteor rock he finds, which is the Lochnar, and then he gets transported to this other world where he's this huge Conan-style guy. Muscles, no hair though, but that's fine. And he meets this nice young woman who says, "I also came from Earth. I was from the British colony of Gibraltar." She's saying with this British accent.
Yeah.
Now she was, I'm from Earth. I was very sickly, but here, like she's very buxom and whatnot. But then she gets kidnapped, and he goes on.
Well, it gives you the impression that without seeing her part of the story, that she had a very similar thing. She was just a female, very nerdy, sickly, maybe not, conventionally attractive, and now she's like him,
Look at that, though. The horrible monsters and whatnot. I've often said I have to at some point hunt down the comics that these were actually based on. These little, because these are based on some of the segments that were issued in Heavy Metal magazine.
Janice Zeal, welcome, by the way, makes a great point that the Twilight books don't really seem all that bad compared to some of the stuff we're starting to get now.
Oh, please. No, seriously. Yeah.
I mean, they're not great, but they're not,
This is what is this? This is the Captain Stern segment. This is a fun
Yes.
little segment where this captain with a horrible reputation for doing murders and all sorts of other crimes is on trial, and he hires some guy to testify on his behalf, and then the guy goes nuts and wants to kill. You have to see it. It's a funny jury thing. This is
It
a bit
reminds
of comic
me a
relief
lot
in this
of
movie.
the characters from like Zap Brannigan from
Yes.
Futurama. You know?
Kind of in the same vein.
Yeah.
Like almost a Star Trek style Captain Kirk type, but he's
But
evil.
he's absolutely evil. But he
That's like denizens of the Federation behind him on the jury,
or even almost a little bit like who's that guy from The Boys? Captain
Homelander.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Not without the superpowers though.
But this is just a fun little comedic segment. And then we get this. There's a Skeets. Actually, that's not Skeets. I keep wanting to say it's the guy from Booster Gold, but
right. But he plays the basic same role, the same concept. Yeah.
This is a cool little World War II segment that involves zombies on a
World War II zombies. Exactly.
Yikes. So that's almost like an EC style comic segment of this.
So it's like the Lochnar was this comet, that's
it's the common thread in all these,
through a situation in World War II, planes going down, everyone on the plane that died becomes a zombie.
Yeah.
Which also could put heavy metal and the Lochnar in the same shared universe as the Night of the Living Dead, right? It could be the comet that made all the zombies come to life.
Maybe.
I don't know.
It was look, if I watched that original Night of the Living Dead, the government's talking about the Venus probe. It's the Venus probe. Of course, maybe the Lochnar did something to the Venus probe.
Right. Okay. Oh, and right. Chris P points out the Don Felder song during the World War II segment. That's right. Mm-hmm.
That's another heavy metal, the song with the words heavy metal in it. In fact, I don't know if any of the music in this could be considered metal, but it's still rock and roll.
It's not technically it's not technically heavy metal music, but it is rock and roll. Yeah.
But I'm sure heavy metal fans would still listen to it. I mean,
Sure.
Black Sabbath is on this album. I mean, it's the Dio, the Black Sabbath Dio.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. So Beautiful, So Deadly, I believe is the title of this segment, which has a robot and some stoner aliens, and there's this and like there's this guy testifying before, I guess, the Congress or whatever, saying, look, this is just my constituents are turning green. They got arms growing on their back. There's something up there in space, and the voters have right to know about it. Oh no, it's just some isolated phenomena. We are the only intelligent life in the universe, the scientist says. And then he goes nuts because he sees the Lochnar on a necklace on this hot secretary's neck, and then and then it turns out he's a robot, and then they have to beam them up into space. And then, of course, the joke is, of course, there are other aliens in space. That's what this is. You have to see. Exactly. I'm describing things you should really just watch. But the robot makes a play for the typist lady, and gets lucky as
well. He proves to be fully functional.
What was funny is, I already have a boyfriend, and then and John Candy plays the robot, and he says, "What he does not know will not hurt him." And I'm like, "Oh, he doesn't use contractions because he's a robot."
Yes, exactly.
That was a thing on TNG when that's how Riker spotted the fake data because he used a contraction, and robots don't use contraction. Just funny. This segment makes the least amount of sense as far as the Lochnar goes, because what does the Lochnar actually do in this segment? Who cares? Just go along for the ride. Then, of course, we get the big event, which is the Tarna segment.
Yep.
Who is this?
That's the book ending, right? Because big spoiler here, the little girl listens to all this stuff, and she ends up becoming the big warrior woman.
She ends up becoming like the next one. The next in this race.
Like in every generation, there's one, and she's
one of these heroes. Yeah, she's one of these. She comes from a legendary race of heroes, and the Lochnar infects a bunch of barbarian type men, and they all turn evil, and they go on a rampage and start murdering people on this strange world, and she has to stop them. And, look at that. You get to see her in her full beauty as well, and just almost like a female Clint Eastwood, I would argue this character is, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
doesn't talk much. Love this movie. It is an animated movie unlike any that came before or really since.
Yeah.
Closest might have been that Rock and Roll movie, which was
Rock
an
and
anthology
Roll
piece. And it was more PG than R-rated, but Yeah, that's another good movie. Yeah,
that was one I have great memories of because that one was talked about on a Nickelodeon show that
with Leonard Nimoy.
Leonard Nimoy
Yes,
hosted. Yeah,
hosted that. I lost my DVD of that in the flood, and I'm waiting for it to get a re-release because it's now a rare Blu-ray and DVD. So hopefully it'll get a re-release. This
Mark
is why
says Rat would be an interesting cosplay.
Apparently, Amazon now owns the studio that owned that and owns the rights. Amazon just released the darn thing. Put it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it as a limited edition or license it to somebody, please.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no 4K of it yet. But anyway, Heavy Metal you can still get. In fact, there was a 4K Blu-ray release of this, which also comes with the regular Blu-ray of Heavy Metal and a Blu-ray of the Heavy Metal 2000 movie they made.
There you go.
Which was okay, but I didn't like it as much as the original. Here we have the soundtrack, though. Look at this lineup. Look at this lineup. We have... I got to make this big. Hold on. We have Black Sabbath, Blue Oyster Cult, Cheap Trick, Devo, Don Fagen, Don Felder, Grand Funk Railroad, Sammy Hagar, Journey, Nazareth, Stevie Nicks, Riggs, Trust. This is an incredible lineup.
It sure is.
This does not contain. I've got this. I have the score that was written by Elmer Bernstein, who I believe wrote the score to the Ten Commandments. Which is funny when there's a joke when Den first shows up in the alien world and sees the woman about to be sacrificed, and he says, "Oh, this looks like something out of the Ten Commandments." You know?
Yeah.
It's a little in joke because, of course, the guy doing the score that you're hearing wrote the score to the Ten Commandments.
Right, exactly.
But, it's just I have this. I have a. I think I have the. I have the Black Sabbath. I'm eventually going to come up with a playlist that has all of the music tracks from the entire movie in the order that they show up in the movie on the playlist because I'm that obsessed with this. I have all the CDs because some of the music cues show up on other CDs. Like I think one of the Devo songs I had to get on a Best of Devo, which was Through Being Cool. It's not on the soundtrack. Instead, they're Working at a Coal Mine is on here.
Yep.
Instead, because Devo had 2 songs for this. But yeah, just
what song did Stevie Nicks do on this one?
I can find out. Hold on.
Yeah, normally I wouldn't ask you to look it up, but I just, Stevie Nicks,
soundtrack. It's on the tip of my tongue. I bought. It's funny. This thing, as I said, was not available on VHS. This was a big forbidden movie until finally in '96 they got the rights back to it, and they released it on VHS on a nice foil cover. I went down to the mall. I bought this, and I also got. I got this, and I also got the soundtrack CD, which was they made a big deal. 2 LPs on 1 CD. Yeah. I guess back then when this was released, it had to be on two records. Right. Let me see. Stevie Nicks. Give me a moment. Blue Lamp.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The other thing, the fact that, as you point out, it wasn't available on VHS. It made it seem, somehow like it was so taboo or whatever, like the nudity and whatnot that was not the big problem. The whole thing that held it up was the music rights, but that really lent itself to that mystique. This did go around in just like Rocky Horror did. There were bootleg VHSs at conventions for years. Until it was finally released. Well, until it came out on, I think still, once it came out on cable, people got better quality VHS copies they were selling. But then it got released on DVD eventually.
We were living in an age of kind of forbidden movies. Like Black Cauldron was another one that never got an official VHS release until around the time Heavy Metal came out. A couple years later, it finally got an American VHS release.
Yep.
But I do... I do love this movie, though. I watched it over and over again when I got the videotape. I eventually, when it came out on DVD, got the DVD, and now have the Blu-ray.
Yep. This is what everyone keeps saying. You want to, just stop and destroy, pirating and stuff. See what people are pirating and put it out there and do it better. Put it out, upscaled, put it up with, DVD extras and stuff. People will pay for it.
Yes. Heavy metal, loud. This is the poster for the re-release. That's why I had the other poster at the beginning, because this is a play on the original poster. Louder and nastier than ever. I do have a copy of this poster. It looks great with my poster of The Beyond, because it's funny because both of those posters are for movies that were re-released, I believe, in 96, of movies that were released in 1981. So it's a weird little thing they have in common. But big fan of this movie. I don't know if they'll ever do another one. They're always talking about it. I don't know how they could in our current moral age that we live in.
You know what? It's just going to take a company that just doesn't give a flying frack and wants to make money. And they go, I don't care. Say what you want. We're putting this out and we're going to make money. Damn it.
Yeah, I mean, come on. What movie has beautiful naked women, lots of violence, aliens snorting cocaine? I mean, this is all you need, right? I mean, is she riding Flappy?
Honestly, this is, this is why I keep saying the porn industry is making better movies now than mainstream Hollywood.
Anyway,
is she riding Flappy? Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. Now you put a thought in my head. Now I'm seeing Sherilyn Fenton. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry.
I can imagine that easily enough.
Oh man. Yeah, I could see a lot of the actresses on Twin Peaks in a they did a live action version. That wouldn't be the same though. I do like the fact that you had.
Yeah, the animation was kind of what made it.
Yeah, some of the sequences were rotoscoped. Tarna was a rotoscoped actress. They had a real actress underneath that. Yeah. Some of the segments were just because they had different teams doing the different segments. That's what was great about it being an anthology.
What was that movie with there was a movie I think with Keanu Reeves, I think, that was rotoscoped.
Scanner Darkly by Richard Linklater. I highly recommend it. Robert Downey Jr.'s in it too.
I love that idea. That is just brilliant. There needs to be more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Richard Linklater, because at first he did the movie Waking Life, and then he did Scanner Darkly later on. And someone made an argument that he made a great-looking animated movie for a fraction of what Disney would do it for, because he was doing it rotoscoped and having people work on it on computers, but it looked great.
Yeah.
And, but...
Well, and let's be fair, the early Disney that everybody loved so much, guess what? That was all rotoscoped, too. It was just done with two-dimensional,
and they
hand-drawn art, but it was still rotoscope.
They wanted to get the movements down, I think.
Yep.
I did want to say there was always a lot of talk over the years of them doing another anthology heavy metal movie. I know Robert Rodriguez was interested. James Cameron, of all people, is interested. Don't know if I want to say about this. I think David Fincher also was interested. Do you know who I think should get involved if they were ever to do another one of these? I think Trey Parker and Matt Stone. South Park guys.
Yeah, I can see that.
I could see them maybe supervising the project and animated one of the sequences, because they did an homage to heavy metal on South Park with Kenny in one of the heavy metal animated
That's funny.
segments. It was like something out of Tarna, it was basically, but it was Kenny in there, and they did it in the same style. So I could maybe see those two working on something like this. But anyway, that's all. There's a great documentary on the DVD. I think it's also on the Blu-ray, where one of the guys being interviewed says, you're a young man and you're saying, tomorrow I have to grow up. I have to grow up, but that can wait till tomorrow. Tonight I'm going to watch heavy metal again.
There you go. Exactly right. Exactly right.